Not everyone is meant to go where you're going. Some people are seasonal, not lifelong. That truth can sting, especially when we've wrapped our hearts, our time, and our trust around people we thought were permanent. But life has a way of revealing that some people were never meant to go the distance. They showed up for a chapter, but you've been trying to make them part of the entire book. And when you do that, you carry dead weight into a destiny that demands you be light. You are created to drag people. Your purpose is too heavy. Your assignment is too important. And your soul is too valuable to be burdened by people who no longer serve your future. There are people who will clap for you as long as you're not going higher than them. They'll celebrate you in struggle, but go silent in your success. You've got to open your eyes to the patterns. Who only comes around when you're low? And who disappears when you're rising? The truth is, some people are addicted to your brokenness because it keeps you accessible. The minute you heal, elevate, and shift into the next version of yourself, their comfort in your presence disappears. It's not your fault, that's your signal. When someone can't handle your healing, it's because your growth convicted their complacency. You must understand that letting go doesn't mean betrayal. It means obedience. If you keep pulling seasonal people into lifelong plans, you'll stay stuck in cycles of confusion, drama, and stagnation. You can't build the next level of your life with bricks from the past. Some people were lessons, not life partners. Some relationships were mirrors to show you your patterns, not marriages to lock yourself into. But when you refuse to release, you block the real blessing from entering. God cannot fill a space you're still stuffing with what he told you to surrender. You weren't meant to walk every mile with every person. Some people were only assigned to the valley, not the mountain. They were there when you cried, but they can't handle your praise. They were present in pain, but silent in promise. And that's okay. Release them without resentment. Bless them and build anyway. Don't try to convince anyone to stay who was never committed to growing. If they leave when you evolve, their absence is protection, not punishment. Elevation requires separation. That's not just a cute phrase. That's a reality you must live. You can't fly with anchors around your ankles. God will not allow your future to be contaminated by connections he didn't authorize. Sometimes the delay in your life is directly tied to the people you refuse to let go. You're praying for breakthrough, but still texting what God said is toxic. You're asking for clarity, but still surrounding yourself with confusion. Growth demands a new atmosphere, and sometimes the first shift is who you no longer give access to. Loyalty is beautiful, but loyalty to dysfunction is bondage. Stop letting guilt keep you tied to people you've outgrown. Your peace is not negotiable. Your progress is not up for debate. You have a mission, and emotional attachments can't be allowed to sabotage your assignment. If someone cannot celebrate your becoming, they were never built for your becoming. If they drain you, discourage you, and distract you, leave them. You don't need to announce it. You don't need to argue it. Just grow silently and let your life speak loudly. God is a God of movement. He doesn't keep us stagnant. So if he's moving you forward and someone refuses to move with you, that's your answer. Stop begging people to see what only God has shown you. Stop reducing yourself so others feel comfortable. If you have to shrink to fit their world, you were never supposed to be in it. Some connections only survive when you're struggling. Don't be afraid to lose people who can't handle your glow. Your light exposes their darkness. Your faith highlights their fear. And your purpose reveals their passivity. You owe no one an apology for choosing yourself, your sanity, your future. If someone makes you feel guilty for growing, they were feeding off your stagnation. True relationships evolve. Real love adapts. Authentic people cheer you on, even when your journey stretches beyond their comfort. So if someone walks away because you're finally walking in your truth, wave goodbye with grace and keep moving. Don't chase who left. Cherish who stay. And welcome who's coming. Everyone can't go, and you shouldn't want them to. The people meant for your future won't feel threatened by your transformation. They won't compete with your calling. They'll honor your elevation. They'll challenge you, support you, and push you higher. Those are your people. And until they arrive, be okay walking alone. Some seasons are designed for solitude, because in silence you hear God clearer. In stillness, your purpose becomes louder. In separation, strength is built. Don't fear being alone. Fear staying connected to those delaying your destiny. Leaving doesn't mean hate. It doesn't mean bitterness. It means boundaries. It means discernment. It means you finally stop trying to heal what God already called finished. Some connections must end so your capacity can expand. You're not being cruel. You're being called. There is something greater ahead, but you can't receive it with hands still holding what hurt you. Release it. Forgive it. Grow past it and walk boldly into the next season of your life. People will talk. They'll criticize. They'll say you've changed. And you have. Thank God. Growth is proof that you didn't stay stuck. Transformation is a threat to those who benefit from your brokenness. Let them talk while you build. Let them judge while you heal. You weren't called to be understood by everyone. You were called to be obedient to purpose. And sometimes purpose requires distance. Your legacy demands clarity. Your next level is too expensive to carry baggage that doesn't belong. You've cried enough over people who left. You've stressed long enough about who no longer calls, who no longer claps, who no longer checks in. If they walked away, that was divine direction. Their exit made room for your entrance into better. You are not for everyone, and everyone is not for you. The higher you climb, the smaller your circle gets, and that's okay. What you lose in quantity and what leaves your life creates space for what's aligned with your future. There's a version of you that cannot be birthed in familiar places with familiar people. There's a version of you that demands new language, new vision, new connections. But you'll never meet that version if you keep going back to who you were just to keep others comfortable. You don't have to carry people into destiny. You don't have to convince them to understand your journey. If they were assigned to your future, they'd already be walking beside you, not behind you, not against you, but beside you. So go. Go with tears in your eyes if you must. Go with a trembling voice if that's all you've got. Go even if it means going alone. The pain of separation is real, but so is the power on the other side. God never subtracts without the intention to multiply. Every person you leave behind creates space for divine replacement. You will not lack. You will not fall. You will not break. You will rise lighter, freer, stronger, and finally aligned with your true assignment. Let them go. Let them talk. Let them wonder. You've got somewhere to be. And your future won't wait for your past to catch up. You are chosen. You are called. You are anointed for more. And sometimes more starts with leaving behind what no longer fits the calling on your life. Don't mourn what was. Celebrate what's coming. And remember, leaving them is not rejection, it's redirection. You're not losing anything. You're finally walking toward everything. Clinging to the wrong people can delay your purpose and dilute your power. It sounds simple, but that one choice, who you stay attached to, can shape the entire direction of your life. We often think the danger is in our enemies, in the storms, in the external resistance, but sometimes the biggest threat to your destiny is the person you refuse to let go of. It's the relationship you've outgrown but still nurture out of guilt. It's the friendship that's become toxic but you defend it because of history. It's the group, the circle, the crowd you keep entertaining even though you know deep down they no longer feed your spirit. Holding on to what no longer aligns doesn't just slow you down. It confuses your vision, weakens your energy, and blurs your sense of direction. When you cling to the wrong people, your life starts to orbit around drama instead of destiny. You begin managing dysfunction instead of manifesting your purpose. You wake up tired, not because your schedule is heavy, but because your spirit is carrying emotional weight that was never meant to be yours. You start to second guess yourself, shrink your ideas, doubt your decisions, all because the people around you don't reflect the future God placed in your heart. They reflect your past, your insecurity, or your comfort zone. And the longer you cling to them, the further you drift from the person you were born to become. Some people were only meant to walk with you to a certain point. And that's not a betrayal, it's just the blueprint. The problem is, we turn temporary people into permanent fixtures. We force lifelong roles onto short-term assignments. We ignore red flags, silence our intuition, and convince ourselves that loyalty means suffering. But loyalty to the wrong people is disloyalty to yourself. If they drain your energy, disrespect your values, or distract you from purpose, it's not loyalty, it's self-neglect. And self-neglect will always lead to spiritual bankruptcy. You can't be full of fire and surrounded by water. Eventually your flame will fade. Your purpose deserves protection. Your energy requires guarding. Not everyone is qualified to access the sacred space of your calling. Some people come into your life with subtle sabotage. They're not loud with their negativity, but you feel it in their silence when you win. They don't always say they're against you, but their absence in your growth speaks louder than words. And yet we still cling. We still try to carry them. We still water dead relationships, hoping something will bloom. But you can't grow in poisoned soil. You can't thrive in an atmosphere that suffocates your spirit. When you keep the wrong people close, your power gets diluted. You're still gifted, still anointed, still chosen, but your clarity weakens, your confidence fades, and your momentum slows. Why? Because you're pouring your energy into proving your worth to people who were never supposed to witness your greatness. You're explaining your elevation to people who can't even grasp the blueprint. And instead of building the future, you're babysitting dead weight. You're postponing purpose to pacify people who don't even want what's best for you. They just want access to your light without paying the price to carry their own. The wrong people don't just delay your purpose, they redefine it in ways that don't belong to you. Suddenly you start dreaming smaller, settling faster, doubting sooner. Their voices become louder than your vision. Their fears creep into your faith. Their limitations become your ceiling. And before you know it, you're no longer living boldly, you're surviving cautiously. That's what happens when you stay too long where you should have only passed through. To compromise your calling, to keep company that was never qualified to go the distance. Your power is too precious to be scattered. Every conversation, every relationship, every environment either fuels or drains you. There is no neutral ground. You are either being pushed toward your purpose or pulled into distraction. And the wrong people will always pull, not because they're evil, but because they don't carry the same assignment. They don't hear what you hear. They weren't given your vision. They weren't equipped for your next season. And when you ignore that, you take on the burden of dragging what God never told you to carry. Let this be the moment where you take inventory of your circle. Who celebrates your purpose? Who stirs your potential? Who challenges your complacency? And who keeps you stagnant? Who makes you question your worth? Who constantly makes withdrawals but never deposits? These questions aren't harsh, they're necessary, because your future is depending on your ability to choose wisely. And wisdom isn't just about gaining. Sometimes it's about letting go. Sometimes the most powerful move you can make is subtraction. You're not obligated to stay where you're no longer growing. You're not called to keep entertaining people who make you feel small. You are allowed to outgrow what no longer feeds your soul. And when you do, don't explain it, don't defend it, just walk in it. Your future will thank you. Your peace will reward you, and your power will return. Because the moment you stop clinging to the wrong people is the moment your life begins to align again. The distractions fade. The confusion lifts. The vision sharpens. And what was delayed begins to accelerate. So many people live their entire lives stuck in a loop, not because they lack talent, drive, or passion, but because they're tangled in relationships that were never meant to last. They're fighting for approval from people who don't even value them. They're building dreams around people who would never invest in them. They're suppressing their light to keep company with those afraid of brightness. But you weren't created to stay small. You weren't designed to shrink. You were born for boldness, for breakthrough, for impact. And impact demands intentional connections. You can't be powerful and passive at the same time. Eventually, you will have to make hard decisions. You will have to say no when it's easier to say yes. You will have to walk away from comfort to access calling. You will have to choose peace over popularity. And you will have to let go of hands that are pulling you backward, no matter how long you've held them. Because destiny is calling. And every delay has a cost. Every moment you spend clinging to what's wrong is a moment you're not stepping into what's right. If they can't celebrate your growth, they can't walk with you in your future. If they consistently question your calling, they'll never support your mission. If they constantly bring confusion, they're not sent by God. Don't mistake familiarity for favor. Just because you've known them for years doesn't mean they're still aligned with your next. Seasons shift, assignments evolve, and your circle must reflect your direction. Stop clinging out of nostalgia. Your purpose isn't in the past. It's ahead of you. And here's what happens when you finally release. Your power returns. You start to hear God clearly again. You start to dream without fear. You move with boldness, walk with fire, and speak with authority. You stop second-guessing yourself and start standing in your truth. You attract aligned people, divine opportunities, and supernatural favor. Because God always blesses obedience, and obedience includes release. So if you feel tired, stuck, or off track, don't just evaluate your habits, evaluate your relationships. Because you can't soar when you're tethered. You can't build when you're babysitting dysfunction. You can't live free when you're emotionally entangled in places God already said to leave. Let this be your wake-up call. If it's draining you, delaying you, or deluding you, it's time to go. Not out of hate, but out of honor. Not out of bitterness, but out of alignment. There's too much in you to stay bound. Too much fire, too much vision, too much power. Your life is calling. Your purpose is waiting. And your destiny is too big to waste on the wrong people. Let them go. Release the grit. Reclaim your strength and walk boldly, undiluted, unapologetic, and fully aligned with the greatness you were born to carry. The power is in your hands. Let this be the season you stop clinging and start conquering. Peace is often found in separation. Letting go is not cruelty, it's clarity. But that kind of clarity only comes when you're willing to confront the discomfort of change. Many people spend years, sometimes lifetimes, clinging to what no longer fits their future. They hold on out of fear, guilt, or the illusion that suffering equals loyalty. But the truth is, peace doesn't always come dressed in comfort. Sometimes it shows up as a closed door, a hard decision, or a quiet exit. And when it does, you must be bold enough to choose your sanity over their approval, your healing over their presence, and your calling over the familiar chaos. You can't find peace in places where your spirit is constantly battling for air. Some people, some spaces, some attachments, they don't just disturb your day, they disturb your soul. You smile less, you dream smaller, you walk on eggshells, trying not to trigger the emotional landmines of people who were never meant to carry your heart in the first place. And yet you stay, hoping things will change, praying for peace in places that only deliver pain. And to realize, but there comes a moment when you have to realize that the very thing you're begging God to fix is the thing He's been trying to free you from. Letting go is not cruelty, it's clarity. It's the realization that not everyone can go where you're going. It's the wisdom to know that access to your life must come with alignment. You don't owe anyone permanent space in your life just because they were there in a previous chapter. Growth demands movement, and movement often demands separation. Not out of bitterness, but out of understanding. Not because you're angry, but because you're finally awake. Awake to what's no longer working. Awake to how much it costs to keep the peace in places that only know how to break you. And awake to the truth that separation is sometimes the most loving decision you can make. For them and for yourself. Peace is not passive. It's powerful. It requires courage. It requires boundaries. It requires the audacity to say, I love you, but I love my peace more. You can't keep sacrificing your mental and emotional well-being just to keep a title, maintain an image, or preserve a relationship that has expired. When your soul is tired, when your purpose feels distant, when your mind is crowded with confusion, that's not peace. That's the signal. I whisper from your spirit that it's time to reevaluate. And often, that reevaluation leads to one simple truth. Peace begins. You cannot keep pretending that things are fine when they're not. You cannot keep excusing behavior that wounds you. You cannot keep minimizing your needs just to maintain someone else's comfort. That's not noble. That's neglect. And you were never created to live in cycles of silent suffering. You were made for peace, real, unshakable inner peace. The kind that doesn't depend on external approval or constant validation. The kind that comes when you choose authenticity over attachment, purpose over pressure, and clarity over chaos. There are moments when separation becomes sacred. An alignment often requires the removal of people, habits, and environments that no longer reflect who you're becoming. Clarity is often hidden in the silence that follows separation. At first it may feel lonely, quiet, even painful. But don't confuse absence with abandonment. Sometimes God removes people, not to punish you, but to prepare you. He creates space so he can fill it with something better, something aligned, something peaceful. But he can't do that if you keep clinging to what's crumbling. Your hands must be free to receive what he sent, and that freedom comes through release. You were never called to carry everything and everyone. You're not a savior. You're not a fixer. You're a vessel, a light. And lights don't belong in places that keep trying to dim them. You weren't created to negotiate your peace daily. You weren't designed to beg for understanding, tiptoe around manipulation, or constantly question your worth. That's not peace. That's bondage. And bondage will always disguise itself in false loyalty. It will tell you that leaving makes you selfish, that separation is cruel, that protecting your peace is abandonment. But the truth is, staying in what breaks you is what's cruel. Denying your truth is what's selfish. Ignoring your spirit is what's damaging. If something or someone consistently costs you your peace, it's too expensive. You can no longer afford to rent space in your soul to things that create storms. You need clarity. You need direction. And most of all, you need peace that isn't manufactured through performance. You need peace that's rooted in honesty, in boundaries, in separation. You don't have to hate them to leave them. You don't have to burn bridges. You just need to stop crossing the ones that lead you away from your purpose. Letting go is not rejection. It's redirection. It's God's way of saying, this is not where your peace is. This is not where your joy is. This is not where your future is. And the moment you accept that, you stop begging for what's beneath you. You stop chasing what drains you. You stop apologizing for outgrowing what no longer fits. Because now you understand peace doesn't always come wrapped in harmony. Sometimes it's wrapped in endings, in goodbyes, in walking away quietly and choosing to rebuild in the direction of your healing. Some doors must close. Some conversations must end. Some connections must be severed. Not because you're heartless, but because you're whole. You're whole enough to no longer depend on dysfunction to feel needed. Whole enough to no longer romanticize red flags. Whole enough to know that clarity is better than chaos, even if it comes through separation. That's not cruelty. That's wisdom. That's alignment. That's peace. So if you feel the nudge to step back, to let go, to release, trust it. Trust the silence that follows. Trust the healing that comes. Trust the peace that grows in the soil of separation. Your spirit knows what your mind often fears to admit. Not everyone is meant to go with you. Not every connection is meant to continue. Not every relationship is meant to last. But your peace is meant to endure. And it will, once you make the brave decision to stop calling confusion companionship. Let this be your season of clarity. Let this be the chapter where you stop confusing loyalty with self-abandonment. Let this be the moment you finally prioritize your peace, protect your energy, and choose separation not as a sign of defeat, but as an act of divine direction. You were not created to live in emotional warfare. You were designed for peace. And sometimes the road to that peace is paved with separation. So breathe deep, stand tall, let go, and walk boldly into the freedom that's been waiting for you all along.